So hey guys, and this is my first ever report that I ever did on this Formula Esports event. But like basically, I'm gonna if I go through the whole event of what happened, basically what happened from our perspective, what probably happened from his perspective, depending on what it shows in this telemetry and this replay log that I have. Basically, I'm gonna show you what he did wrong, and on top of this, what he should have done, and what punishment he's probably gonna get, which is pretty much like a 5 second or 10 second penalty, which makes him drop major points. But he later, in fact, rage quit, so pretty much he's gonna get dropped not that much. But on the worst end, right, he will get some penalty points, and if he continues to, in fact, collect those penalty points, he will go from a nice race ban to qualification ban to outright like a whole GP ban. Like you literally get banned for one particular event, and then soon, right, you get banned from the whole championship as a whole. So pretty much, what this guy did right is pretty much, I believe, borderline illegal, because what he did right is basically go off into the gravel. In fact, I should actually show you right now. So basically, if we go into 3, right, which is the furthest, and then right, this is where we actually in fact see it. So as you see, right, he gets involved. There's a collision over here between two cars, and of course himself at the time. And of course, the two cars if I spin out and then collide outside and pretty much stay on the outside. Basically one car joins in, right, but he joins in safely where he slowly joins in. But this car, he basically, right, he joins in dangerously. So if you kind of see, right, yep, safely, this one is dangerously because he's not over a lot more sharper onto the track. But this could just show right that he wasn't even looking as if he was joining the track to begin with, because what it clearly looks like as if, right, from that he could have joined in at a lot lower speed, while those cars if I driving towards him at a lot more higher speed. This just is not very dangerous, but this could in fact, right, be dangerous for him and his overall positioning on the race as a whole, because the collision that I had, right, pretty much was around, yeah, basically you see this spin out even more, because what he did, right, is held his pedal on the accelerator instead of in fact, right, braking, get control of it, pretty much anti-stalling. But anti-stalling isn't the best interest here, because from there, right, you can quickly shift out to first, and then after that, right, slowly join back onto the track, which would be the much more safer option, since it will allow faster cars to not only pass him, but also he could gain up speed, and that based on the crash that he had just then, he could have gone into pits, quickly repaired, and gone back out and pretty much finished the race. uh Basically, right, he didn't do this, and instead what he did, right, is continue to spin out, which caused me and him to have a nice collision over here. So as you see, right, his car is facing towards the left hand side of it, while I'm facing towards the front end side. So you can see, right, that my whole right side is pretty gonna collide into his whole left side. And this basically, right, would be quite fatal if it was a real race, but this is in fact esports, and so the amount of damage is in fact significantly reduced, especially for the Phoenix Motorsports that I in fact joined and participated. They have reduced it majorly because they don't want to, because like they know Farah, if they keep it at 100, they know for Farah this collision will result in a data for me and him. So, what I did, right, is pretty much I collide into him, which basically causes him pretty much to spin out, and then this caused me to temporarily lose control of the car, almost leading me into colliding with the barrier, but I don't, and merely missed the barrier, as that it was not only if a minor collision that I had, but it was a collision which I could easily recover from with minimal damage, which I had to in fact drive onto the grass and then slowly join back onto the road in order to simply continue on with my racing. This is something that you should not in fact be doing in the first place. What you should have done is braked and then got down to first and then slowly got back on. Because what he did, right, is he not only did a dangerous maneuver by joining on track dangerously, but he also caused a collision on top of that, which would in fact give him some penalty points and some 5 second penalties. And if you want to in fact check out his perspective, this is in fact like, so we in fact gonna check out my perspective from it. So this is basically, I was in first person the whole time. So how was I focusing, right, is that I noticed the crash over here. And I noticed, right, that this car was to join in safely so I could overtake around the outside. But what I haven't noticed or haven't had reaction time to, and my mistake was probably because of the amount of collision over here, and therefore I should have gone deeper into the left hand side and at a reduced rate. But it was actually green at the time, so I didn't know about this collision whatsoever, and I thought that they're gonna stay on the outside until they let me pass. But he basically like loses control here, right? So as opposed to go inside the center, he in fact makes it even more tight and even more worse for me and for himself, because he not even goes 100% on the throttle, which basically that'll make you not only spin out but also lose control. Of course I did this in the race, because simply what I did, right, is that if you accelerate too early out of a corner, you can in fact spin out and do like that. If you in fact brake or turn on the bumps along the edges, as you see you go do a turn, that will in fact cause that to happen. Multiple things happen, and in this case it's pretty much caused by the track and the loss of traction that you in fact had. Yeah, pretty much I was gonna go on the inside even more, because I know for a fact that he was gonna go on the outside. So I knew for a fact I was gonna in fact collide him, and then boom, you can see his wing, and then I temporarily lose control of the car. Then I go, oh shit, report, I have to make a report. Yeah, I slowly joined back in. Not really that slowly, because if you compare the amount of speed that I had, it seems to be mostly affected by the fact, right, that I was in fact causing that collision. The only time I in fact decelerated is pretty much the impact and the amount of speed I lost without that acceleration. So in fact right now we're gonna in fact check out what that car is in fact be doing. So basically he is car 24. And you may be going like, what in fact caused this whole thing just to happen? So basically, right, this is where it mostly starts. So he in fact goes to the outside, he brakes I think a little bit too late, and he brakes so late to the point that he doesn't stay on the optimal line, and in fact he shifts down a little bit more less. So basically the shifting down, he should shift it about 5, but 4 would be also okay if you actually did a little bit of braking, a little bit of deceleration, which I also did, because, and it kind of feels as if he didn't do enough practice on the track, because what generally happened is that he basically didn't even know the breaking point of this, and pretty much just went on the outside and gone with all these other people. I noticed that this car in fact lost control over here, and so basically, this car understandably gone on the outside, pretty much because he didn't know what was in fact going to go on. These two in fact collide with each other. Yeah, I don't think he collided with him, not that much. So he's massively lucky over there. And he basically, I think, drives back all the way. So pretty much, I think he made it a lot more safer, as that he spun out and in fact, fucked up. And I don't know about here. I don't know if they caused a collision because of the amount of dust. Probably didn't. But anyways, he shifted down to second, and this is where around first or second where you have to be extremely careful, because basically this is where not only the IPMs are gonna be extremely high, but this is mostly where people normally do their burnouts and all sorts of stuff, right? Because it is a lot better just to lose traction at this point, especially around the speed that it has. So, and on top of this, his RPMs are extremely high, and you can see the RPMs are extremely high still, showing that he didn't draw on the track carefully, and that he just kept on full acceleration on it on second gear, causing him to pretty much spin out, which, if you want to stay full out, you could have gone to a higher gear. But generally, no matter what he did, right, unless if he kept the RPMs under control, right, he could have in fact gone throughout the whole thing. So he basically kept the RPMs nice and high, and then he tried to not in fact spin out on the grass, but the fact that he's going at high RPMs, in fact reduces his RPMs because he knew that he's going to in fact spin out. But he did it so late to the point that honestly he was even fucked, because what he did is pretty much because what basically happened, right, is if you go back, he basically right, got full on high RPMs throughout the whole collision and then exited on high RPMs and then basically right, braked when he was on the track, which is not only very dangerous but absolutely fucking stupid. He should in fact just braked and then go down to first and then gradually increase the RPMs up. I don't know what the fuck he was doing and I don't know what was going through his mind when he in fact committed this invasion. But this in fact caused him just to not only spin out very much, but also cause a collision between me and him. And then this in fact causes a violent reaction for him, but very minor incidents for me. Because he basically like causes himself to not only spin out very dramatically, but he spins multiple times before ended up on pretty much the side of the road again, which is very stupid really because I ended up just pushing him out of the fucking way. And if you try to use any defense whatsoever, it'll be immediately dismissed knowing that he made a dangerous maneuver onto the track, which he should not in fact be doing, and that this will under FIA would basically give him the disqualification and overall any punishment given. So yeah, then after that, right, he parks. I'm just gonna go through his whole perspective because generally like, he rage quits after he realised from the major impact. Because reason I put mine, it was only front wing damage from him. It was mostly from the axle damage and like suspension damage and everything else, right? And front wing probably also. So pretty much he had major damage whatsoever, and I think he could have just pitted in this lap just so he could fix everything and carry on. Which he didn't. He in fact carried on until he spun out and rage quit. So yeah, he pretty much continues on the high RPMs on first gear, while in fact stuck in auto stall, I believe. I don't know if it stays there. Yeah, like yeah, he gets out of auto stall. If you felt like yeah, he seems to in fact be stuck on auto stall, which is something that in fact automatically activates when in fact the RPMs go a little bit too low, too high while you're stuck. It prevents the car from overheating and just killing itself. And generally he's stuck and basically gets out of it right now. Hits the front wing on the barrier because he goes on a little bit too high on the RPMs, which in order to get out of auto stall you need to have high RPMs and hit the clutch, and then after that one you can gradually get out, which he does, but he seems to somehow like keep up with the shitty maneuvers of trying to in fact get out with high RPMs, despite the fact that it wasn't really gonna work. So then right, he gets the fucking brains back, and then after he got into a massive collision, in fact joins the track, not really that much risk. Then after that right, he seems to be quite fine, but however there's something majorly wrong about it. And if you may notice that pretty much right, that you can tell right that he is quite a newbie at this, because you would normally go about this around fourth gear, but he doesn't, because probably because A, he's probably a noob at this and therefore is quite new at this. B, it just shows that he didn't have enough practice at this, and therefore normally caused by, or C, where basically caused by the collision, and that there must have been something major, especially for the steering. Which in my opinion doesn't really look that bad, and therefore looks as if like the steering wasn't really affected by anything whatsoever. So yeah, we carry on. He's perfectly fine. He tried to overtake, but he seemed to be fucked up really. So at this point, I think he knew for a fact that after that crash, he knew for a fact he wouldn't really make it. And then he carried on, and then carried on racing, like normal. Not really as good as he wanted to, as I think he noticed, because simply what's happening is that he noticed that he simply not only have lost a shit ton of pace from that crash, but also lost some got some real major damage from the collision, which I don't know what exactly. So yeah, he keeps on driving like normally, pretty much increasing the gap to the car in front of him, and then yeah, he always keeps chipping down to second, which actually causes him to increase the gap further. And on top of this, I generally believe that he wasn't really rocking with the right amount of downforce or aero or any good setup whatsoever, so that also affected him also, so he didn't have enough more research beforehand. And then this is where in fact why he in fact rage quit, because and we're gonna look at that rage quit right over here, because what happened is that he doesn't tuck into the corner too much, and he was around our fourth, which you can do, but being on third would be a lot more better, because third gear will allow you to pretty much stay onto track more than on fourth, where you have to in fact have like good control of being off the grass than compared to pretty much because basically if you want to be in fourth gear, right, especially around this corner, you have to have good control when you're off-road, especially in a Formula 1 car, which I have, right, which this guy clearly doesn't have, but he seems to be quite good at it because he got to grass a little bit, and well, fourth gear seemed to be good for him, and it did be perfectly fine, but where you fact spins out rage quit is generally something I was very confused. Because he goes down to second instead of to third, which is weird, because he really fucked up his own shifting, really. He didn't know what to do and didn't know what to shift down to in order to go through the corners. And on top of it, he showed his lack of experience. So, yeah, and on top of this, right, I do not believe whatsoever he has a lot of experience. And if he says well, he got a lot of experience, I believe that's especially bullshit, especially in this race. So yeah, and on top of this, right, it's immediately proven by the fact, right, that he went to second, which is based by any Formula 1 driver, or any esports driver, or anyone who drives a Formula 1 car, both virtually and physically, would know for the fact, right, that first and second are extremely risky gears for massive RPMs, since where it can in fact allow you to simply spin out more, because simply you're putting too much wheel spin onto the tires, and this basically spins the gears even more, and basically this gives the lack of grip towards the tires, and therefore allows it to pretty much spin out, which he gets the control nice and good in it, but he somehow managed to lose it because what he did was he put too much RPM in it. If he generally gone out in a smooth fashion of the RPM instead of just immediately going 100% on it, he could have in fact done it quite well, or kept the RPMs to lower mediums throughout the whole corner. Then after that, slowly going up higher, and this will not only increase acceleration to 100%, but this also gives him like the full throttle that he wants instead of just going to 100% right out the corner. And that's what I call throttle control throughout the whole thing. This actually in fact causes him just to pretty much spin out, and cause him to pretty much collide with the barriers, and then he realized, fuck it, I pretty much lost, because I'm not even last place, but I pretty much lost multiple positions, and on top of this, I went through a shit ton of crashes, that one guy fucking collided into me, I'm fucked, fuck this championship, fuck the owner, he done something that I caused, even though I caused it, and then he basically just stays there, not really damage Jack TT, pretty much goes menu, quit, and then he just quits. Simple as, he just quits. And throughout this whole thing, you can just saw that he's not even a beginner, but he doesn't really have that much knowledge, and that I believe that what he needs to do is pretty much practice on the track far days beforehand of pretty much the upcoming race. On top of this, he therefore needs to hit the go-karting track and to basically not only figure out the fundamentals of pretty much how to drive on a track, but also the braking points and everything else on top of that. Because his overall knowledge of the track is very low, if not poor, and that his practice times are extremely low. And if he hit the go-kart track at least once a week, or Jerry hit it like a few times, and then gained that knowledge of pretty much knowing when to bring on to accelerate and know how to in fact not spin out. He could have in fact had a good pace going. And on top of this after that collision, he could have in fact boxed. He did not box throughout this whole race. From that collision to the rage quitting point, you have noticed that he did not box whatsoever. Which I believe it is his fault generally, because what he did is get himself involved into a almost collision between two cars, but then get himself involved into another collision with my car, which basically spins it up majorly, and basically here, so as we're gonna see that he did not box whatsoever. So he's gonna keep on driving, because I know, because like what I'll be doing in this situation is simply slow it down, then go inside the box area where I'll box and repair the body, probably just suspension maybe if that's damaged, but majorly just repair both of them if they needed, do tire swap if I want, and on top of this he's rocking stuff, so basically he has a lot less laps going for him anyway, so compared to Beyond Medias, which are not even a lot more better because they or pretty much the hard tires, which are not even a lot more better because they last a lot more longer throughout the whole race, and which I would normally rock with, because honestly I would rather rock with the hard tires, since well they will not only last you a lot more longer within the race ride, but this will also make it so that if you ended up wanting in fact just to keep on driving and not focus on any boxing whatsoever, you can just focus on the hard tires. But yeah, pretty much keeps on going straight instead of that boxing, which I would have done, but he did not box whatsoever. Seems like another car box early, probably much because after the crash. And we're gonna focus on that car also. So let's see if I go all the way back and then focus on the two other cars, because honestly I don't think any of those cars whatsoever in fact left. And instead of so we're gonna keep on continue to go back. So in fact we're gonna focus on this car, see what he does, because basically he goes from the inside, mainly avoiding that car and also avoiding that car. Basically yeah, you can see from his perspective that a major collision caused by him going inside and pretty much accelerating, and then he he immediately avoids him, and then basically goes at a reduced pace because he knows that he is probably damaged, and basically continues to go on, and pretty much I don't think he was involved that much in the collision whatsoever, more than the fact that he was driven off the track, so he was in fact fine for the most part. So there's him, who's not even very fine, but pretty much is in fact okay, since of course seen by the actual collision it didn't really affect him whatsoever, and yeah, it didn't affect me whatsoever either, since of course. So now we're gonna in fact wind back a little bit. So now in fact we're gonna focus on that car. So now we're gonna find out where that Ferrari is. Now okay, there's the Ferrari. So he's the one that in fact spins out. He brakes, which this guy really avoids. I think made contact. Yeah, it looks as if he made contact with him merely, but I don't think he was affected that much within that contact. He makes contact with him, I believe, which proceeds to in fact spin him out, collides him into the barriers. With him, he does a safely. This is how you in fact safely join back on the track. You wait for the oncoming car to pass, right, before you in fact enter, and then enter on a slow pace, right, where you in fact just where you make sure that your car is under control and that everything's sorted. and he spins out a little bit, and then he proceeds to go on with his day. This is actually the model student after this crash, the one who in fact got spun out, pretty much the first really. So yeah, he knows that he probably has some damage, and then he's fat boxes. He does what I do. He does what professionals do in this circumstance. He boxes, and he fat repairs the car. So yeah, he boxes, repairs the car, and then he goes right out. That's it really. Before, of course, spinning out. And in fact, we're gonna look at that unexpected spin out because that's actually in fact quite interesting to in fact analyze. So it seems like as if he goes on a little bit too much in that corner, which is often a mistake, especially for the racing line to basically go through. But it's also a lot more risky, as this if you brake here, you're in fact more likely to in fact spin out. And if you basically on top of this gear change, I think, and then slow down a little bit, I think that goes to spin you out here. But yeah, but that ain't what we focus on. What we focus on is that corner whatsoever to pretty much cause the collision. So, in fact, right. So, I don't know what happened. I think he was clearly accelerating and then he turned slightly more onto the corner, which caused him to pretty much spin out. And you can actually see, right, based on that alone, right, he got too much onto it. If he had some tire on the road and some tire on here, right, it would have been okay. It would have been okay. But instead, right, he treated this as a new piloting perfect route instead of this, right, which causes him to pretty much spin out and then right, he proceeds to in fact brake hard, which is actually something that everyone should in fact be doing because this in fact will reduce the amount of damage that you get as a whole. But yeah, he basically causes a collision, gets to a collision again, and then spins out, and then he in fact goes back to the menu, back to pits, where in fact he lost all positions between pretty much the pit stop to that, which would have been a lot. Let's in fact check out his new attempt before for some reason boxing again and then getting out. So I don't know what he's doing, but he somehow managed to fuck up his own race by pitting again for some reason. Honestly, I don't know what's going through his whole mind. I think he's doing something like adjusting his shit, and then he goes out again, and he seems to be fine on the most part. So I think what he did right was realize his car needed repairs. He needs to adjust his tuning during the race, which is absolutely fucking stupid because what he did right was mostly stupidly nothing really. He should have in fact done that during qualifying and practice when he had the option. Especially about qualifying because qualifying people goes into race immediately. But yeah, it seems as if for the most part, this car pretty much is not really that affected of it, and pretty much yeah, it seems as if that he does quite well overall throughout the whole race. And then you see if that rage quit some point throughout this whole entire race. So it seems as if he rage quit somewhere about now, I think. I do not know. Yeah. So pretty much right, he rage quits around here. I mean, in fact, we're gonna look back on that collision to see what causes in his rage bait. So pretty much, he goes too much on that corner again, right? Which is the worst part because this is the breaking point. And generally for the breaking point, you want to make sure you're on the road. Being on these rumble parts is absolutely terrible because generally this is a rumble part where it's supposed to, if I rumble and notify you, you're on the edge of the track. He basically goes full off the track and goes into the rumble zone, which he somehow thought that it was a braking zone, and basically uses this as the braking zone. And then I don't know why he treats that as a braking zone for some reason. Like, he should in fact be on the road to do the braking to begin with. But anyways, right, he treats that as the braking zone, which proceeds to in fact spin him out because braking on that zone, which has like terrible traction, but it's definitely not good for the most part. Pretty much spins him out and then causes him to collide again with the barriers, which in fact right gets him to the gravel and then not pitting, more like quitting. And so yeah, now we in fact are gonna focus on pretty much the other car that was in fact involved in the collision. So pretty much because I haven't really got too involved into his backstory, but he seemed to in fact rage quitted. So pretty much everyone throughout this whole incident has in fact rage quitted apart from me, which is not only quite ridiculous, but also just to show like rage quitting, there's no point in it, because generally like if there was 10 people you would have the opportunity, but they would rather rage quit and just leave than do that people compete, which basically gets them a DNF and no points earned whatsoever. They had the opportunity to earn points, and basically they did not earn no points whatsoever, which decreased from 10 to 6 and allowed me to earn a couple points from these people in fact leaving. So he basically does quite well. It doesn't seem to have rage quit around there. So in fact we're gonna figure out what in fact caused him to pretty much be on the side. So it seems to be a nice violent one, but let's in fact review this whole thing and just see what the fuck happened. So he seems to be not on that much on the rumble pot, which is actually quite good. He seems to in fact brake quite late, but still brake quite well. Gone down towards around 4th. But still at a high amount of speed, which makes him go super fucking wide, which I do not recommend, but also something that will actually inevitably cause his collision, because he was going at 118 at high RPMs off track, which would 100% lead you to not only lose a lot of traction, but also lead you to spin out and crash. And yeah, pretty much he goes off the gravel majorly, which if you slow down just a little bit or slow down at all, which in fact he attempts to do, but it was too late since he spent more time off the road instead of trying to focus on getting back on the road, which he eventually does, but then he proceeds to in fact spin out, which in fact causes him to pretty much go to auto stall. I think he shifts down a little bit too much down towards neutral, and I don't think he really braked that much, which basically causes him to pretty much collide into the barriers at the back. And then he just brakes, and then he goes out, I'm fucked. He kept on waiting there, he boxes, after then he stays in there, and then he proceeds to just leave. So pretty much everyone in the collision has basically left because they committed stupid mistakes and they haven't really learned that much, because as you see everyone who was involved in the crash apart from me didn't have that much practice time on Imola. They have that much practice time on this type of map of Imola, because the main difference is that this one is the 2024 version, which is a lot more different because the Imola that you're provided with Assetto Corsa is pretty much the oldest one, the one without the gravel pit whatsoever. So pretty much with this one, this one has the gravel pits, so pretty much it's a lot more safer and a lot more secure. And so what happened is that he pretty much gets into a nice stupid collision because of it, and because he pretty much trained on the wrong track, which I was in fact initially doing, training on the wrong track, but then I got to a new track, and then I trained, pretty much adapted to that track a lot more better, because even if you train on the wrong track, you can still if you have the basic understanding of your racing line and your braking points and everything else, you will still do a great job on the other track. But the main difference is that one track has a gravel pit and the other track does not have the gravel pit. And so that'll be the end of today's video. This is actually in fact just a deep dive into pretty much a couple of incidents, which in fact I hope for you to in fact take back on and pretty much learn from. Which you should in fact learn from these guys' mistakes and not rage quit, because rage quitting is equal to stupidity, which is quite stupid for fuck's sake. So yeah, stay safe and see you guys later. Bye bye. So after thorough research, because what I did was pretty much this is Daniel Castella. He basically did this absolute dumb move of pretty much spinning out, causing to a crash, and then crashing to me. This is a couple days later, and basically we got an action from the stewards, which I'm actually happily impressed by. And this Daniel Castella, I think he was moved down even more, but he was only moved down to begin with because he basically completed 3 laps. You may be going like, how the fuck did I manage to somehow figure out I was Daniel Castella in car 24? Despite the fact, right, that nothing was telling me that, apart from the fact, right, of how much laps he did before he rage quit and left. Basically, Daniel Castella, from the time of the crash, right, to pretty much, of course, the end of the race where he basically DNF'd, he basically completed 3 laps, and then after that, right, spun out and then DNF'd. I basically counted those individual laps, and then, right, I managed to, in fact, right, connect the dots to Daniel Castella via the results over here. So I pretty much gotta thank the sim grid for actually doing it, and basically the aftermath is, of course, a 30-second time penalty and plus 3 penalty points for spinning out another driver and unsafe rejoin. Basically, the spinning out is basically, I think, him spinning out, and then basically the unsafe rejoin, of course, I showed you was basically him going inside of pretty much the track and basically doing an unsafe rejoin from there. Then spinning out would be basically from me after the fact of the crash. And of course, Maverick literally knew for a fact, right, that there was going to be a report early on, because simply I said there was a crash, I'm going to make a report, I'm going to make a report, I'm going to make a report, like I said in the earlier in the video. So pretty much that's what happened, and the explanation said should take more care to return the track safely, which is true. It is clear that there's a large application of throttle while the car's on the grass, which causes the car to spin out on track, like I've been saying within the video, because on that deep dive I literally just said right that he basically had the throttle fully placed on when basically spinning out, and basically on the grass and off-road, it basically causes him just to spin out. And of course this pretty much led him to not only pretty much merely avoid the 2 crashes that he could have had, but this also him putting pin on full throttle on the grass basically caused him just to in fact spin out, as that he could have done a safe rejoin on the track if he braked just a little and then gone onto the track as soon as I passed him. And pretty much him doing that is absolutely pathetic, really, to be honest. Like, there was no point in pretty much trying to keep up with the speed when knowing damn well he wouldn't have enough traction. Simply put, he didn't have enough traction in order to get back on the actual tarmac, and of course F1 tires don't have the best traction when it comes to off-roading, as that they're pretty much one of, if not the worst, unless if it's full wet, because honestly they need those grooves to in fact get the traction in. But these are of course slick tires, and pretty much these are hard tires, and hard tires, medium tires, soft tires are all just 100% slick with no grooves whatsoever. So pretty much, therefore, it would be like extremely grippy on the road, but not as grippy as much on off-road, since it doesn't have the grooves in order to basically dig in and pretty much use the pretty much the off-road area. So pretty much Daniel Castella pretty much got 3 penalty points, and pretty much after the fact, basically the session would pretty much, this, I don't know if there's anything gonna be put up just yet, but I bet you on the second one it's gonna be him, Daniel Castella, who basically got the penalty for it. And pretty much it was absolutely bullshit in multiple factors, especially generally about the fact that how he actually acted in Germany, because like I don't really think he knew what the fuck was in fact going on. I believe like in the future like Audi said, improve the training. Like he needs more training on not only the car itself, but also car maneuverability and control also. Because honestly, without that, he will never know what to do in certain circumstances. Like for example, going off road. And on top of this, he must try, I believe, more like how to basically drive on off road much more better, and how to actually control the car when it comes to off-roading, and how to do safe stops and all that, because I felt like if he went in blind just like me and got a shit ton of penalty points. And therefore, right, I basically backed off a little bit, basically learned more, and basically learned more about the car itself, and driven it a little bit more cleaner. I still don't even know I'm last. Of course, this ain't gonna be my season. Imagine kind of like this, really, is that this is gonna be my beginner season. Of course, the first season, especially for a rookie, they ain't gonna do as well as they're gonna be. But here's the big but. As they proceed to do all the seasons, they'll in fact eventually get better and better. Soon, who knows, by the next season, I could get a lot more better than how I was at the start of the season. Because I already feel that improvement coming up as it is, especially for the controls of the car itself. Especially when I've done some minor adjustment of the settings, tweaking them up, and then especially done some adjustments on the car itself, learning about basic tuning and all that. So yeah, pretty much 30 seconds and 3 penalty points for spinning out the driver an unsafe rejoin. Anyway, we go like, what are the penalties for it? So around 5 penalty points, he basically got 3. He would actually get himself a qualifying ban. So he basically showed about like got a solid 3 penalty points. So basically yeah, so you got yourself 3 penalty points, and that will basically get yourself just underneath qualifying ban, and then 2 more, that'll be 5, which will get yourself qualifying ban. Which basically, right, what will happen is that you have to stay in the pits throughout the whole qualifying, and basically you have to end up in dead last. Pit lane start. I think what happens here is that simply everyone else gets teleported to the track, but you have to start in the pits, and then after everyone has pretty much passed the pit lane, I think everyone started, you can actually drive, but however you need to stay in the pit lane exit, I think, and pretty much it's kind of like how F1 works, where you start in the pits, and eventually when everyone passes you, get out of the pits. Drive through is basically at 12 penalty points, where basically what will happen is that, well, simply put, that within the race, right, you have to in fact drive through the you have to basically drive through the pit lane at limited speed. Race ban is basically where you get banned for a race entirely, and then the championship disqualification is at 20 points. Basically, these two are extremely hard to get at unless you're extremely shit at the game, especially right here. I believe like at least you may actually get qualified ban, but at this point, if you get around these areas, you might as well just give up. Like, I'm at all these 7 as it is, so I'm just below the pit lane start. So there's that, so I have to keep it just under, but you may actually achieve these 2 if you're extremely shit, but these 3, you might as well just give up at this point. And the championship disqualification is where you're just disqualified from the whole championship and not allowed to participate in the future. This is basically where you have to in fact start doing your research on SimGrid, where you were signed up to the first place. To go to the second cause PC, no, second cause Company Zero, because them 2 are different for some reason. And then after that, you have to in fact just look around for pretty much all the latest events, which Phoenix Motorsports, Phoenix Sim Sports, proves just the best at, really, because they're not only one of if not the most popular ones, but they especially do it in basically the Formula Alpha Challenge, which is basically the Formula event. And it's actually quite nice. Even though you may actually act like a dick, you actually understand and get better and better. So yeah, it's actually not that bad of a race, really. Like Silverstone, good. Oklahoma, good. Baku's a little bit mid. Imola was really good for me. Istanbul, basically, right. Eventually, like more people gonna leave throughout the whole entire like place. Even have like some people withdrawing. I think like one, yeah, Sandeep. We basically just withdraw throughout the whole thing, and then he's not gonna withdraw from Interlagos, which I don't know why the fuck he's gonna do that, and like unless he's extremely busy in that case. But still though, I don't think he's gonna really do that well. Cause unless he managed to get first, which somehow right, cause Sandeep is basically if you find out where Sandeep is nowhere to be found, to be honest, because he basically skipped out majority of the fucking whole entire shit, really. There's also the chat about your thing, whatever. But I gained 2 positions for that. So basically, I'm still on 6, and pretty much how it's mostly adjusted is pretty much via live laps. Basically, for example, I did this amount of laps because like if you did not finish, and how it works that way is that if you're extremely behind like all of these people, and and then like the first, second, third finishes, then they'll be limited on time, I think, before like everyone else finishes. And then after everyone else like pretty much finishes, really, everyone else, there's like a set amount of timer, and then after that, right, it pretty much finishes for everyone. And then if you do not finish, it goes over DNF, DNF, and DNF. And then everyone else who basically did not participate will come as did not start, did not start, did not start, as they joined too late in order to get in. Kind of like me, because I was about to in fact join late, because simply I was in fact like I wasn't gonna really because I was like out at the time, so like when I came in, I looked, it was at the right amount of time to simply just join back in. So yeah, so you have like Daniel Castella, who did not finish because he completed 3 laps. Me, I was about to finish it, but like honestly, God, I was so far behind to the point where that I was really not finish it. I believe I finished at like lap 30, I believe. I don't know why, because I was like lap 29, even though I finished it at lap 30. For some reason, I just don't fucking get it, but still don't. Yeah, but pretty much everyone else gets points, and also I get points also, because it's not dependent on timing or if you actually finish right, but it's also but it's mostly dependent on one thing: your positioning. And on top of this, right, this in fact made me quite high up on the leaderboard, really. Because honestly, if you try to find out where the fuck am I, which is over here at 11th, yeah, dropped is all, and then pretty much 10th is Okadaima, which I got basically 10 points, and then 9, and then I'll be 19, 20, 21, 22. That'll be the 3 from the DNF, which if you focus on it, which should be around here-ish, but like I got 6, so 80 on that. So I don't know really what's in fact going on, but I think like eventually when the time actually passes, it will actually fill up with official ones, which would be not only a lot more better, but also make this a lot more accurate. Because so far it's not really accurate, since the MLM results ain't really released that. It's a released yet, and due to that, right, it made so that the it wasn't really like the lead was already it's already got good at the time. And so let's see if I will look at everyone who's so far in the championship. You have Ivan, he's basically got disqualified, so I don't know if he was even in, but he basically somehow got disqualified. And then after that, right, it seems as if another person, naturally like Gil, if I got disqualified also. There's me, who's still fine, and then there's Sasho, he basically got disqualified also. And there's Tachion over there, and some dude jumping in his bike. So yeah, pretty much that was everyone, to be honest, really. And then like all the mods over here and etc, etc. So what do I have to end off of today's video? Pretty much what happened within the crash between me, him, and a couple of drivers. The aftermath of it, and pretty much what I could have predicted. Then on top of this, a couple days later, is actually me pretty much preaching about what happened, and then showed what happened, and then showed the student's reaction to it, and then all of that. So basically, pretty much you got 30-second time penalty, but I don't know if it affects this race, because honestly he didn't really participate in that much, so there was really 30 seconds to add anyways. And then on top of this, right, the 3 penalty points is going to affect him real well. So pretty much the only thing that's going to affect him in the future is simply gonna be the penalty points, because that mostly carries over throughout the entire championship and resets once the championship in fact ends. So there's in fact, right, from pretty much Imola, if you actually focus on it right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 more races left. Not that much. But however, this is where, in fact, right, if it carries on the same down road and keeps on fucking up and makes it a lot more dangerous, he could in fact gain more and more points. Because trust me, how he's in fact been acting, he could in fact gain more and more points from that racing incident. I reported both on SimGrid and also on Phoenix SimSports, who basically has their own option of pretty much making their reports via a thread. All you have to do is go to AC Report, and then from there, you in fact make yourself a nice report of it, and then pretty much you put everything that you need, put all the evidence that you in fact want. Here's a beautiful picture of me and him making contact, and then pretty much you put everything, make it as much more detailed as possible. Try to go for multiple perspectives. And then eventually, pretty much, it'll pretty much be sent over to the students, who basically looks through all the evidence, looks through everything, and then pretty much makes a final decision on it. If you didn't know the name of it, just put down the card number, and then from there, you could do some more further extended research of who was in fact driving that driver, by in fact comparing the leaderboards of it, and how much the laps they did to pretty much their whole laps that they did throughout the whole replay. Do that, and then you'll be not only very good, but also you may actually get the exact driver. But that's everything, and we're in fact gonna go now. Enjoy the deep dive.